Hello, bonjour, Alberta. Did you know that at least 238,000 people speak Français in Alberta? And those numbers just keep on growing? Oui, oui, c'est vrai, it's true. And thanks to Shaw TV Community Access Programming, we get to reach out to everyone to let you know all about special people, places, events, and activities happening right here in this great province, in both English and en français. That's right, mes amis. We begin the first part of our program in English, and then we repeat it en français. So stay with us. Restez à l'écoute.
Bienvenue and welcome to 2016, the 10th season of Hello, Bonjour, Alberta. And this evening, we're going to have some real fun here because we've got a couple of representatives of the Calgary HITMEN with us. We have Michelle Ward, Sales Executive, and we have Brad Curle, Broadcast and Communications. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Let's start with you, Michelle. We'd like to get to know you a bit better. Where are you originally from? What's your background? And how did you get involved with the HITMEN?
Yeah, so I grew up in Ontario, right next to Quebec. Learned a little bit of French growing up and going to school. And then about 5 years ago, I moved west to Calgary, and mostly for the lifestyle. So I love the outdoor lifestyle of Calgary, and the mountains, of course, are beautiful, and started a life out here in Calgary. Came from a corporate sales background. You may remember the tech giant BlackBerry.
Oh, yes. Yes, research in motion.
Yeah, that's right. They were right in the backyard. So I worked there for many years. And then it was last June that I started with the Calgary Flames Corporation. So starting working with the HITMEN then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about you, Brad?
Well, I grew up on a small town in northeast Saskatchewan by the name of Porcupine Plain.
Oh, really?
Okay. Very, very tiny, only about 800 people or so. So I was a farm kid growing up and had exposure to radio. AM radio was often the only signal we could receive on the farm, and I grew up listening to hockey games late at night and aspired to be one of those voices on the radio one day. Lo and behold, I went to broadcasting college and worked my way up the ladder, and 10 years ago I started with the Calgary HITMEN and have been here ever since.
So that's where you developed that deep voice, that announcer's voice that you have there?
Well, I think genetics might have something to do with it.
That.
There's a little bit of school in there as well, but it's always been a dream of mine.
Well, 800 people, that's the big town I used to go to from St. Victor, Saskatchewan, which didn't have 100 people. So I know a bit, we have a similar background in that respect there. So how did you get from Porcupine Plain to Calgary?
Well, I had gone to a broadcasting college in Saskatoon.
Okay.
And the first job that came available was on Vancouver Island. Port Hardy, BC. And
okay.
I thought it was interesting because being a farm kid, I didn't know anything about the ocean, but I was reading about high tides and low tides, and very vital to the average fisherman. Not a clue what I was saying as far as a broadcaster went. And then moved my way from there to Estevan, Saskatchewan, where I put my foot in the waters when it came to hockey, play-by-play. One night my boss asked me if I'd like to come to a game. He was the play-by-play voice and said, "Do you want to do color?" And I'd played hockey growing up, and I thought, this is my big break. And the third period comes along, and he says, "The mic's yours." So it threw me right into it, and I guess I did a job that was above board, and he asked me to do it again. And then I moved to Lethbridge and did the Hurricanes in the Western Hockey League for some 8 seasons before moving to Calgary.
Okay, so you got into the Western Hockey League first, and then moved to the Calgary club.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for that. Let's talk about the HITMEN then. I guess the HITMEN have an interesting origin story.
Certainly do. We're 21 years old, and back in the day, in 1995-96, it was our inaugural season in the Western Hockey League. There was an ownership group that came together and asked the Western Hockey League for an expansion franchise that included Joe Sakic, longtime member in the National Hockey League, Theron Fleury, who many people in the Calgary area are quite familiar with, and Brett the Hitman Hart, who was known for his time in the wrestling ring. A unique combination of 2 hockey players and a wrestler. Well, Theron Fleury had said to Brett, that's unique. We got to use that name in the franchise.
The HITMEN.
How would you be okay if we called it the Calgary HITMEN in honor of you? And Brett said, absolutely. So that's where our name came from. To this day, Brett is still very active in the organization. He won several wrestling titles during his time, and to give back to the organization, there's actually a replica championship belt that is in the HITMEN dressing room, where after every game, the player of the game receives that belt.
Oh,
so
really?
His legacy lives on.
So that'd be pretty motivating, I guess, to get that belt.
For sure.
From time to time. You don't have to wrestle Brett for it, though.
Fortunately not. I don't think anyone would beat him.
be pretty tough. So those 3 players, or 2 former players and wrestler, formed the club, but it's not owned by them anymore, is it?
No. In the mid-1990s, the Calgary Flames Limited Partnership stepped in as an owner.
Okay.
And under their umbrella, it's been a great successful story. Brett Hart, Theron Fleury, and Joe Sakic laid the foundation, but having the Flames as the ownership, shall we say, took it to a brand new level. It essentially mimics that of the National Hockey League. They play in the same building, Scotiabank Saddledome.
Right.
All the in-game elements are identical to what the Calgary Flames have, from the Jumbotron, the big screen TV, the instant replays, and even the in-game promotions. And Michelle can talk about some of those that we have that really try and create an atmosphere beyond just the hockey game itself. We view it as a family night out where you get the opportunity to take your family and for 2.5 hours just really enjoy some entertainment.
So how does that compare to the rest of the Western Hockey League? Is that an incentive for players to play for Calgary and a sort of a bigger show for their fans?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think so. Calgary is one of a few teams that have the advantage of playing in an NHL stadium, so it's quite unique among all the teams in the WHL, especially for the fan base that we have access to. Calgary has some diehard hockey fans, which is great to see every time they come out to the games, and it just gives the boys a really great opportunity and kind of a taste at what NHL playing would be like.
And in addition to that, our practices are in the afternoon, and the National Hockey League teams will come in the morning up. So our players are exposed to that. So whether it be Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins or Steven Stamkos of the Tampa Bay Lightning or Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens, they get that access to watch how the pros train. And the Western Hockey League is a developmental league for the National Hockey League. It's the #1 feeder into the NHL. So every player that plays with our organization has dreams to one day skate at the Saddledome and up his jersey from the HITMEN jersey to that of an NHL jersey. So it's a great foundation.
Yeah, the draft, I guess, is what they're aiming at, isn't it? Because the Western Hockey League is mentioned very often at the NHL draft. As you say, a big feeder. But it isn't a feeder that just includes players from Western Canada, does it? I mean, the players come from everywhere, don't they?
Absolutely, all over Canada and even internationally. We have a player from Belarus and Russia.
And the United States as well. Most recently, the game has really taken off in the United States. They call it the Wayne Gretzky factor. When he was traded from the Edmonton Oilers to the Los Angeles Kings, it put hockey on the map. So much so that a lot of these players now are picking up the sport. I know, talking to some of the players 5-6 years ago, often their buddies would say, hockey, what is that all about? But now it's second nature. It's very popular, and we actually have 2 players on our team from the United States. So as Michelle mentioned, we cover almost the globe, Europe, Western United States, and Western Canada as well.
So you've got an excellent product, pulling the best talent from pretty much all over the globe when it comes to hockey. You've got an older, let's face it, but still very attractive venue, and all of that sort of thing. But you also have some challenges, don't you? I remember when the HITMEN were formed, there was talk that, a minor league team in a major league town, sometimes there are issues with that. And you're both in that promotional area. How do you deal with that? How has that been?
Well, I think it's first and foremost was trying to identify what the HITMEN are all about. We'd go out into the community, and just the misconception from some of the fans, are you Are you, you know, a senior men's team? Are you a minor hockey affiliate? What are the Calgary Hitmen? So once we created the culture and understood that we had several players move on from our organization to the next level. Ryan Getzlaff is probably one of our most celebrated alumni.
Sure.
Andrew Ladd, who's a captain with the Winnipeg Jets. It's nice to have that. But you're right, initially we were drawing probably 1,500 people in a building that seats 16,000, and logistically it was a challenge, and economically as well, to make the franchise go. But as Michelle had alluded to, we have such a die-hard group of fans that not only embrace the Calgary Hitmen, but now love junior hockey. They will travel. We had a large corps go to the World Junior Hockey Championship this year, the MasterCard Memorial Cup, which is the junior hockey supremacy trophy, this year being played in Red Deer. Our fans regularly travel there, and even on the road, we'll show up in Prince George or Moose Jaw, and there'll be Hitmen fans in the stands. So the product has really flourished in its 21 years, and I would suggest it's never been as healthy as it is today.
And I think a lot of fans are really attracted to just the fact that they get to see these boys play in their home ice, their hometown, and then they grow into the National Hockey League. And as we have it today, there's 2 Flames prospects on our team currently, and that's going to be really neat for our fans to be able to watch these boys grow and then follow them. Exactly, yes. They see them first, and they get to see them develop and you know, move on to the NHL.
Okay, so what kind of events, what kind of promotions do you do? I understand you have a fairly significant one coming up.
Absolutely. We have you know, the Hitmen Hockey Club is very connected to the community, and the community is very important to our team. And so a lot of our games have this charity tie or this community component to it. I imagine you're familiar with the teddy bear toss game?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
back in December.
That's a big one, yeah.
It was quite a big one, and really successful, you know, near sellout crowd to sellout crowd.
Wow.
Record-breaking teddy bears tossed, and all those 28,000 plus teddy bears went back into the community. And such a timely part of the year as well, the beginning of Christmas, or the beginning of December, which is close to Christmas. And our boys too, the next day and the following week, they actually take the teddy bears and visit the hospitals and visit different associations, dropping off bears for children in need and less fortunate. So we definitely have a very big community tie, and making sure that our community benefits and our local fans benefit as well. So to your point, the big game that we have coming up, this is first of its kind. So we haven't done this before, and it's called Multicultural Night.
Oh, wow. Well, that sounds interesting, in conjunction with Western Hockey League. So how does that work?
Right. So think of it like a multicultural festival at a hockey game. So we're encouraging fans to, or different cultural groups, to come to the game, bringing their country flags, dressed in their country colors, come in with your friends and family and celebrate your country or your culture. You know, as I mentioned, we're very closely tied to the community, and we have very many theme nights throughout the season. And we realize we don't have a night where we've dedicated the night to celebrating and recognizing how culturally diverse Calgary is. And diversity is really important in Calgary, and really important, you know, right now. And we want a night where we can recognize and celebrate our multicultural diversity.
And that's coming up on March 6th, is it?
March the 6th,
okay,
correct.
Okay, well, we're unfortunately already out of time. Thank you, Michelle Ward and Brad Curle of the Hitmen.
Thank you very much for having us.
You're very welcome.
Okay. For our viewers, stay with us. On continue en français.